Every 2 years, Moz does something kind of special and different to try and understand how it is that Google ranks pages and sites in their results. So you type in a query, Google does a bunch of fancy magic, right? They, well, very technical things that are not magic, but they essentially have an algorithm that determines of all the potentially relevant content that they could surface for a query, which ones are they going to show for your query and in what ranking order. And this is critically important because, as we discussed, the click-through rate curve means that that first position is getting the lion's share of traffic, that second position is doing well, and then it drops off steadily from there. So in order to do SEO well, we as marketers need to understand how is it that Google is putting together their ranking algorithm. And we call this study the Seo Ranking Factors. We do this study every 2 years. It includes two elements. One is a correlation analysis where we take a bunch of features and we do the math to try and correlate them to tens of thousands of Google search results. And the second part is a survey of SEO opinions. Basically, we select about 150 folks in the SEO sphere who are very competent and capable and have proven themselves over the years, and we survey them about their relative opinions about the importance of factors. Both of these are worthwhile checking out, and we'll refer you to the document where you can read those. It's free on the web. I think if you search for SEO ranking factors, you'll find it. But what I wanted to do today is to use the opinion data, the aggregated opinion data, and the percentages that are shown here, which I think are kind of a nice visual representation in a pie chart of how you might think about how Google is ranking things, which elements they're using, which elements they're not using, what they care about and don't care about. So what we've got here are a number of factors, and you can see from this pie chart, like, do you get a sense, kind of staring at that? Gosh, that is actually not a huge difference between the top factor, which had an opinion, an aggregated opinion of about 14.6%, versus the smallest factor of 7.07%. That's actually not that much of a shift. It's not like there's one dominant factor. So let's dive into what's actually in this ranking algorithm. What do professional SEOs think is important, and what have we validated through correlation and through testing on this stuff? And the answer is, it's still very, very important that we have domain level link features, which is also called domain authority in the SEO world. You can think about this as basically all the links that point to all the pages on your site from other websites. So for a long time, Google has thought, hey, what you say about yourself, the keywords and content on your page, is fine, and we care about that, but we're also very interested in what other people on the web say about you. And what they say about you is through the link graph. The average page has about 75 links on it, maybe 80 now, and there's many, many external links, in fact, trillions of them across hundreds of billions of web pages. So Google's got a ton of data that they can mine here. PageRank, their initial attempt to sort of build an algorithm to define which pages are more important than which other pages based on their links, has matured dramatically. And so now we have a lot more features on this. The second one here, almost the same, 14.5 and 14.6%. Respectively in our survey, is page level link features, aka page authority, and this is really about the links that point to an individual page, right? So you might have, you've got your website here, and your website has a bunch of pages on it, probably more than 5. But domain authority is looking at all the links that come into all of the pages on a site, and that's telling Google, hey, this domain is important, this domain is influential, this domain is relevant to these topics. And then they'll also look at page level, so just the links that point to the one page that's potentially going to be returned for a query. Next up, page level keyword and content features. This is essentially your keyword targeting. How good of a job are you doing showing Google that you're relevant, showing them that you're on the topic you're talking about, showing them that you're serving the visitor well on that keyword. And this is essentially, if I'm trying to rank well for camera lenses, well, I probably want to make sure that camera lenses is in the title of my web page, that it's in the content there, and that I also include terms and phrases that people are probably searching for, like dimensions and which manufacturers the camera lens works with, and what models, and all of this other additional information. Google's really smart through topic modeling algorithms at saying, if you are trying to rank for this term or phrase, and we don't see all these related terms and phrases that we've previously seen connected to this term, well, we probably aren't going to rank you. Trying to rank for New York City neighborhoods without the words Brooklyn or Manhattan or Queens or the Bronx on the page, that's going to be pretty tough. So next up, page level keyword agnostic features. What do I mean by keyword agnostic? Well, these are things that they are about the page, the individual page, but they're not about the keywords necessarily. So that's stuff like load speed and mobile friendliness, the uniqueness of the content, making sure that it's not duplicated from somewhere else, the length and size of the page, all of those kinds of features, which have importance as well in Google's algorithm. You know, if you are trying to serve up in-depth results about a very specific research topic, you're going to want an in-depth piece that is lengthy, that provides unique content. If lots of people are doing those searches on mobile and you want to rank well on mobile, Google is favoring mobile-friendly results, so you're going to want to target that. Number 5, engagement, traffic, and query data. This is one of the ones that's been rising like a rocket ship the last few years. 4 years ago, we didn't even have it in our survey. People really weren't thinking about it. A couple years ago, it was small. This year, it's big. I wouldn't be surprised if it's number maybe 2 or 3 even when we do it again in 2017. What I'm talking about when I say engagement, traffic, and query data is things like features like pogo sticking and query success. This is Google essentially saying, hey, you did a search and then you clicked on result number 1 and that took them to maybe to your website. Well, that's great, but then they immediately clicked back to the search results and they chose number 2 instead. And then they stayed on that site and browsed around, they never came back to the search. That first behavior of jumping back from your page to the search results is what Google calls pogo sticking, and it is a very bad thing. You want to avoid pogo sticking at all costs if you can. The reason being is that's a metric Google uses to ascertain, did the searcher have a successful query? Did they have a good experience on that page, on that site, once they got to it from our search results? If you have lots of people who do a search, they get to your site, and they go back and choose someone else's, Google's going to think, I don't care how many links you have and how well optimized your content is, these visitors are unhappy with you. I'm pushing you down in the results and I'm pushing the guy who's making them happy up in the results. And so that kind of engagement in query data is making its way into the algorithm. It's why it's critically important not just to think about SEO, but to think about the visitor's experience on your page as well. Next up, domain level brand features. This is things like branded search and direct visits and brand affinity. What we mean with this is Google takes a look at a domain overall and they might say, gosh, this domain is really connected to a particular topic. When we see people searching for camera lenses, they often make their way to your website. When we see people, for example, searching for reviews of hotels, when we see them searching for where to go on a trip, they very frequently find their way to TripAdvisor. Lots of people skip that process altogether and search for hotel reviews in Cork, Ireland, TripAdvisor. They add the brand name to the query. That's a branded search. And that tells Google, you know what? Maybe even when people are performing the search without the brand attached, we should be ranking that brand, TripAdvisor or whoever, higher in our results. So those domain level brand features also making their way into the algorithm in a big way. That one's been rising too. Domain level topic and keyword associations. This is similar stuff. This would be around things like the domain name itself, some topic modeling that rather than being connected to an individual page is connected to a domain overall. So, for many years, Moz has sort of had this, Moz.com has had a nice positive association with the word SEO. And so when you add SEO to a lot of queries, even where it doesn't make any sense, animal husbandry SEO, for some reason Moz seems to come up because Google's got this topic association between SEO and Moz.com. That's obviously very nice for us, but it's something that you will want to build for yourself in your own brand with your domain in your niche. Number 8, our penultimate one here, domain level keyword agnostic features. So just like our page level keyword agnostic features, we're talking about things not related to the keywords and terms and phrases you use, but rather The TLD extension, so are you using a .com, .net, .org? Trust signals around a domain that can exist, spam signals around a domain. So, Google might look at, does this domain tend to have contact information? Was it registered by an entity that we've seen register a lot of other spammy domains? What sorts of traffic data patterns have we seen to it? All those types of things. And our last one is social data and features. I think this is actually the most fascinating one for many people because a lot of people just naturally assume, myself included for a long time, myself included here, assume that things like tweets and Facebook shares and Google Plus shares and LinkedIn shares and all this social data, which surely is a good sign, a good signal for whether a page is relevant and whether it's useful and whether people are actually interacting and engaging with it. That is not something Google is using very much, at least not directly. So indirectly, there are features from these that make their way into the algorithm. You can certainly imagine that something that gets a lot of tweets, a lot of shares, also gets lots of links. But with the exception of Twitter a little bit, because Twitter now has the partnership with Google and some tweets are directly showing in Google's results, social media is mostly an indirect influence at this point, not a direct one. Influencing this stuff is part of the SEO process, and many of these are challenging to influence. They'll take a lot of effort and energy. Others will be more simple to control, like the stuff on your own site. But this is what we do in SEO. We influence these things in positive ways, directly and indirectly, through everything that we can in our organizations and things that happen outside of them. And then we try and get the maximum ranking benefit and search traffic benefit that we can.